the next thing I want to talk about, which is Teams Rooms on Android, which, Rally Bar, and how that's developed. And the first question I've got to ask, and I'm going to ask you this, Ilya, is who came up with the name Teams Rooms on Android? It just trips off the tongue. I mean, I think it's a bit like calling a Ford Mustang a people mover on petrol engine. It just says what it does, I know, but it's not very sexy.
Marketing is answer number one. I think for us, the main thing we are trying to communicate is that it's Teams Rooms. And it's a consistent, approachable experience. We have some customers that care a lot about the platform. So some customers are really keen on Windows. They know how to manage and update and configure and so forth Windows. And some customers are very keen for this category of stuff on Android and the kind of view that they have of that. And we wanted to say that we have Teams Rooms on both, and Logitech are fantastic in terms of supporting both, and so we enable that customer choice. So the naming, if anything, is optimized for choice, but I am just as happy if people kind of leave off the last part and it's just Teams Rooms.
There's a great answer, politically correct. But actually, I think you've almost won me over on that one. So Henry, you've taken that great name and you've turned it into some awesome products. I remember the first time I think I met you in Newark. We had I don't know if you used the code names on this video, but you had some much sexier code names on these two products. And I remember you taking out of this flight case and showing me the kind of first samples, and that's turned into the products now. Just introduce us to these wonderful products.
Definitely. So the code name for Rally Bar was Kong, but the marketing name is Rally Bar, and it's part of our Rally family. So for small rooms, we have Rally Bar Mini. For mid-sized rooms, we have Rally Bar, and for large, of course, we have Rally Plus. So it's a Rally family of products, and as Ilya kindly said, when you put them together, it looks like a family of products. They just look like they belong in every aspect, from the materials to the form factors to the sizes. And John, I would say, what you said earlier regarding Meetup being a big inflection point for the industry and how people thought about these devices. Meetup largely influenced Rally Bar Mini and Rally Bar in its pursuit for simplicity. And there's nothing simpler than a simple object that kind of has everything put into it, audio, video. What's unique about our family of products is not just they're really beautiful bars, but they support two modes. To Ilya's point, provide the ultimate choice. Years ago, as part of our multi-year strategy, we bet big and said we believe this appliance Android experience is going to be big because it solves a ton of problems. It's less things, less boxes, less cables, less things that can go wrong, less things to procure, and less things to manage. And so we said we want to go big and we want to bet on this appliance Android experience, but we also recognize the value that the Windows ecosystems bring, the amazing experience that Teams on Windows already delivers and will deliver if you look at their multi-year roadmap. And so what we wanted to do is not make our customers decide between the two worlds. We said, hey, we have one device that will support either world. And the nice thing is they move back and forth. So if you started in one world and wanted to move to another, it's literally just switching a cable. And then when you see a new feature, there's a lot of AI innovation on the Teams on Windows in particular that I'm really excited about that I've seen recently. If you want that, you can switch back and you don't have to rip and replace your whole room. So it's a portfolio that scales from small to very large rooms. And it lets you choose between the Windows and Android platforms, and it lets you go back and forth. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds, super scalable and very flexible.
I mean, you touched on the AI element, and that to me is something that we've if you look at where we were 7 years ago at ISE when we first started talking about Rigel, and we were talking about that before, I kind of feel on the same point now on AI. You kind of know it's going to be the right direction to go in, but where's it going to lead? Where's it going to end up? I mean, Ilya, what's your dream about AI and how that's going to influence the meeting space?
I think at a high level, what we want is to have the intelligence in the hardware, the system, the cloud, blur all the lines between physical location. I think what we've seen through the pandemic and now beyond the pandemic is that the world becomes, we use the term hybrid, but really extremely fluid in terms of where people are, but with a consistent need for wherever I join from, I want to feel equal. That was not the case pre-pandemic. Let's be honest. If you were joining a key meeting remotely, you probably were sort of forgotten about. The discussion was in the room. Your face was covered up with content on the front of the room screen, and you felt just sort of lucky to be able to join in. And that's not the case. Our top decision makers in a meeting are joining remotely, and that's going to continue to be true. So our focus is on building that equality and helping people feel like they're the best selves. And actually, we're very conscious of the flipping of that dynamic, where when people come back to offices, it's going to be, I believe, to see other people. Like, there's no point in me coming back to sit at my desk. I've got a great desk. Why sit at a smaller desk with, maybe a smaller monitor? I'm going to come back to see my coworkers. It's going to be in meeting rooms.
Yeah.
But then, if by being in a meeting room, I have, I'm a dot at the end of a table, because that's what the video provides, and nobody knows who I am because I'm not recognized, our concern is people are going to sort of turn around and go home, and we're not going to get that connection that everyone's craving for. So that's a long setup to say, I think AI is absolutely key to helping people be their best self regardless of location. If I'm in a room, we should be able to not have to go around the table and introduce ourselves. We should know who is there, put that information into Teams. We should be able to know who said what. We should be able to give everyone their own video real estate and their own transcript real estate and their own action items and notes. You shouldn't have to reach for a personal device to digitally raise a hand. You just have to raise a hand, and we reflect that. When you're remote, you frankly shouldn't worry about if your wife, or in my case, any minute now, my mother-in-law walks in behind you and says something, because we know your voice, and we should be smart enough, even in the combination of hardware and software, to only let your voice through into the meeting and give you that confidence. Those are just a few of the things that I think can be uniquely enabled through AI.
Wow. I mean, that's a great view on the direction that you're taking Teams. I mean, when you look at Rally Bar, that's the start point. It's a device that's a very accessible device that can start to capture some of that experience. Yeah, Henry, how many things can you do? Where are we? How far down that journey of the vision that Ilya has just given us are you?
We've made some really, really exciting progress already, and it's interesting to see and kind of reflect, over the last few years, how the word AI went from being a buzzword to something that people use AI less and less because they're actually calling out features and capabilities because it's just part of it. And when I look over the next few years, where this is at now, where it's going, it's amazing. I think AI is going to, not just the buzzword, it's going to really level the playing field. And we're seeing that today. And I'll give you a few really good examples. A lot of the noise suppression, everything that we're doing in Rally Bar Mini, that's all machine learning based noise suppression. It allows people on the far end to hear what's happening in the room at much farther distances. The Logitech Scribe that we announced last week, that is all built-in compute that lets you do real-time keystone correcting and just making the image of that whiteboard available to the far end participant even better than if you're in the room. Because now if you're on the far end, you can see through the person that's drawing on the whiteboard, instead of saying, hey, Ilya, can you move out of the way? I don't see the thing that you're writing. One of the puzzle pieces that we've put into our Rally Bar Mini products that we haven't talked too much about publicly is our AI viewfinder. So we actually have two cameras built into Rally Bar Mini and Rally Bar, and we've told the world that it's about framing and people count, which it is. But we're actively we'll be talking about this publicly pretty soon around Right Side 2, which will use two cameras at the same time to capture the room and also the speaker in the room at the same time. So imagine an experience where the main camera, which in case of Rally Bar is an optical camera, zooms in on where the active speaker is, gives you this amazing lossless 1080p experience from Teams. And then you're still providing the context to the room with the secondary camera in the room by capturing all the meeting participants, and it's kind of captured into one stream in a nice, elegant way. So again, think about those puzzle pieces and how we think about where things are going. We're going to be using AI to solve some of the problems that Ilya is talking about. Looking ahead a couple of years, we definitely view the world as a multi-camera solution. We're far from done by putting more cameras in rooms. It's not just Scribe and the 2 cameras in the front of the room. You'll see more and more and more. And AI, what it's going to do is going to make, even though you're adding complexity in terms of number of components in the room, way easier, because it's going to automate the switching, the pickup, the noise suppression. All this stuff's going to get automated. And again, the word AI will stop being used because it'll just be part of Teams, and it'll just be the Teams experience.
Here's the analogy on that, by the way. We hear about meeting fatigue. What you don't hear people talking about is Mad Men fatigue or favorite TV show fatigue. People don't really binge on those shows and don't get fatigued. Why? Because there's a director for those TV shows that is changing the visuals to make it engaging with multiple cameras. We can do that, or we can't do it today, to be totally direct. We think we can do it. So the future, the vision is, when you have multiple cameras, we should be able to give a cinematic virtual director view that lowers the mental exhaustion of staring at 2 flat, or in my case, 2 today with you, but staring at sort of flat 2-dimensional images by varying the angles, shots, zoom, panning, etc., to make the meeting more engaging and again, lower the mental processing needed to stay engaged. And that, we think, is possible with AI, with multiple cameras, and something we're very excited about down the road.
And it's a great term from, I think, Scott Wharton from Logitech came up with, which is better than being there. And I love that. I love that concept, because actually, if you think, you use the football, my soccer team is playing at the moment, and they've gone into extra time, and I have no idea what the score is. But I was watching it before this, and actually, it's quite a good experience. Big screen and everything else. If you're in the stadium, you get quite a narrow view. So with electronics, you can actually give people a much stronger view of what's happening. So better than being there is something I think you're describing, using the technology to give you a much better view of what's happening.